So when it comes to dealing with roundabouts, first of all, you need to actually see the roundabout, and this is one of the mistakes that lots of learners make, especially on this roundabout. They miss it completely. So as you're approaching it, we can't see the sign, and then some learners, they'll get here without realizing there's a roundabout and they'll try to go through it without stopping. I'm not going to do that because that's a bit dangerous, so I'll make sure I stop for these people that are on my right hand side, and then once they've gone, I'll go through. But in the first place, you want to make sure that you're looking for space, you're looking for signs. Sometimes there's a triangle warning you that you're coming up to a roundabout, and also by the actual roundabout itself, by the mini roundabout, there will be a blue sign just like this one here, letting you know that you're coming up to a roundabout. So giveaway lines on roundabouts have been put there for a reason, and you're not supposed to go over them. And what you see some people do is they'll be waiting for a gap, but then they'll slowly creep in over the line, then eventually end up being too far into the roundabout. You want to avoid this because you can actually fall for this, as you're going to be too far in there and you're going to get in people's way. So to avoid this mistake, once you get to the roundabout, make sure you don't go over the line unless you're ready to go. So like once I get here, I'll stop before the line. I'm not going to creep forward until I know it's safe. So like now I can go, then I can make my way forward and I can stay behind the line until I'm ready. So going at the right time is really important. So like this car on my right is indicating left, and I should just move here without stopping. But what you see some learners doing there is because they see that car on the right, they don't realize that it's not coming towards them, and then they stop for no reason. And that could be a problem that can actually make you fail, especially if you keep doing it. You want to make sure that if the right is clear, or if people are going the other way, they're not coming towards you, you should make your move. So you might get situations where you get asked to, let's say, follow signs for burnt oak on these roundabouts here. And as you can see from the signs, this is a double roundabout. So you've got two roundabouts very close together. And what you see some learners do is they'll do their first roundabout correctly. So they'll do this roundabout first one nicely. But then the second one, they completely forget that this is a roundabout because they've dealt with one roundabout already. And they won't even look to the right. And then if a car is coming like this car is here, they would actually fail for that because they haven't checked properly on the right hand side. So if you're dealing with a double roundabout, make sure that you check in two roundabouts and you treat them separately. Otherwise you run the risk of crashing into someone that you haven't seen at the second roundabout. So once it's time for you to go, what you see some learners do is they'll panic because they're trying to do it quickly, and then they'll end up stalling in the middle of the roundabout. So to avoid stalling in the middle of a roundabout, which would be quite dangerous in some points, you want to make sure you're coming off the clutch smoothly. So like this one for instance, once I get a nice gap, come off the clutch smoothly, add in some gas as well. So on these mini roundabouts where the painting on the floor is flat, you can go over the circle, but what you want to avoid is going completely on the wrong side like this. So even if you have to drive over the circle, at least make an attempt to go on the other side, and then you can drive over it a little bit. Just as long as you don't drive fully on the wrong side, you should be fine. Although you can fail for hesitating at a roundabout, you are far more likely to fail for going into the roundabout when you shouldn't. So like here, this person's going in, but they should actually be waiting for the people on the right. Just like now, there's a car coming from the right hand side, I've got to wait for them, otherwise you get a beep like that, and if you did, that would be an issue. But once it's clear, then you can make your move. And if you're not careful, it can be easy to follow the car in front of you, and then you can miss what's happening on the side. So we've got his man crossing here, and if I wasn't paying attention, I could have missed him from before he crossed. So you want to make sure before you go past the crossing, you're checking both sides for any pedestrians that are coming. And if they're waiting there and if they're coming to cross, let them cross. And then if they're not crossing, then you carry on. So you got to watch out for zebra crossings where your view is a bit hidden. So like you see that bus, his view would have been hidden by this van here until he went past and there was a person waiting to cross. You don't want to miss things like that. So if you can't see one side of the crossing or both sides, you have to assume that someone's there. Just think in your head that someone's going to be there and start preparing for them. The mistake that lots of learners make is when they're approaching that crossing, because they can't see the sides, they either don't think about it, or they just think, oh, it's going to be clear because I can't see. If you can't see, just assume that someone's there. So pedestrians have priority at zebra crossings when they're trying to cross like this. So you want to make sure you stop for them this far. So I'm right by the line over there, and then they can cross safely. What you don't want to do is stop somewhere like here, blocking the crossing. This is going to get you a fault, especially if somebody's trying to cross and you're in the way. That's going to be a problem. So if you can't clear the crossing for whatever reason, stay behind the crossing, or make sure there's enough space beyond the crossing and then stop there. Especially where there's slow moving traffic like this, you don't want to just follow the vehicle in front of you blindly, because if they stop now, and then now I'll be stuck on the pedestrian crossing, treat it like a box junction, and that way you shouldn't block it by mistake. And you've got to make sure you're stopping for pedestrians that are crossing on junctions as well. I had enough time to slow down and stop for him and then let him cross. And especially if he's already crossing the road, you've got to make sure that you're stopping fully, because if you don't do that and you drive towards someone that's already crossing the road, that's definitely going to be a problem. So where that man is standing now, this is not a pedestrian crossing, so I don't have to stop for him. So if I was to stop for him sharply there and then someone was behind me, that could be a problem on the test. If they're on a pedestrian refuge island like that, you don't have to stop for them. If they're on a zebra crossing or a different type of crossing, then you have to stop for them. Sometimes you might get people stepping in the road when that's not supposed to, like this person here. But I slowed down a little bit there just to let him go past. If someone was to cross in front of you and then you didn't slow down, that could be a problem. Even if it's not a pedestrian crossing, if someone steps in front of your car or they're in the road, you've got to look after them and not get too close to them or run them over. But that doesn't mean stop for every person. So this lady that's waiting on the side there, I don't have to stop for her because she's just on the side waiting. The person is on the pavement and they're not trying to walk in front of your car, and it's not a pedestrian crossing, then you don't have to stop for them. So like this guy in the road here, I'm gonna have to be a bit careful with him. But you can see me, I can see him, and he stood back. So not every person that's in the road, you got to stop for them. It's about what are they doing? Are they crossing in front of you? And is it safe for you to proceed? So when you're behind a cyclist, you don't want to overtake them before turning left. So if I want to turn this left here, I'll check my mirrors first and then signal. And I'm not going to overtake him before turning, which is what some people try to do. But I'm going to slow down instead. There's even one behind me. I'm going to let him go past and then check my mirror one more time, and then I'll make my turn. Getting too close to cyclists, whether you're passing them or driving behind them, is going to get you a serious fault. With cyclists, you want to give them plenty of room, especially when you're going round them. Give them as much room as you would give to a car, and that way you should be okay. So there's a bus pulling over on the left here, and the idea is to position myself in a way so I can check my mirror and go around him if it's safe. But what you see a lot of learners that's stopping behind the bus for no reason. Now this is going to get you a fault. And then another fault you might get is try to go around the bus now, because you see he's already moving off, he's got his right signal on, and if you try to go around him then, you're going to get a fault because you're not showing that you're aware of what the bus is doing. When buses are coming out of bus stops, you need to let them out if you can do so safely. So once you see a signal, don't go around them. Once you see them signaling right like that, don't try to go around them. Allow them to move off if you can do so safely. And then notice here, this bus driver has got his right signal on to let us know that it's not stopping at a bus stop, because sometimes when buses stop, people think that they're actually stopping for bus stops, but not in this case. So stopping so to allow the other bus to come through, so that way it shows us that it's not stopping at a bus stop, so we shouldn't try to go around him.